Hey there, thank you so much for signing up for the list building tactics. Now, next to the video, you can download the PDF that has all the details, but you'll want to listen to this video because in this video, I'm going to walk you through each one of the tactics. I'll give you pros and cons for each one and give you a little bit of information about how to utilize each one, more than what I could do in the PDF. And you want to listen all the way through on the video because I'm going to share with you two tactics that a lot of people use to build their email list and they just don't work. And one of them is really going to surprise you. So that information, not in the PDF. You definitely want to listen to the video to get that. Get my secrets. Now, if you see me looking down a little bit, it's because I have notes here and I just want to make sure that I get everything to you because there's so much like in my head that I didn't want to leave anything out. So I'm just going to, every now and then I'll check my notes to make sure I'm staying on track. All right, let's get started. There are numerous ways to build your email list, right? But if you want to build it significantly, if we're talking about having more of a storm than a trickle and having a big impact, then I have found there are 4 ways that work really, really well for great growth. And the key really to all these 4 is that you have to give people a compelling reason to want to get on your email list. It doesn't work to just say, get on my list. So the first tactic is speaking both live and virtually. It's a fantastic way to grow your list. And the cool thing is that the key that you want to remember rather is that you're giving audience members a reason to get on your list and a reason to connect with you. So if you're speaking in person, one great thing to do if you're using slides is to say to people about midway through the presentation, oh, I see that you're taking a lot of notes. If you give me your business card after the presentation and put slides on it, then I will send you the slide deck and I'll add you to my email list. That way you're getting permission from them and you're getting people to opt in basically manually or pardon me, in person to your list. Now, if you do that, you want to make sure that there's a break after your talk so you can collect those cards. And you want to make sure that that you are in a place where people can easily get to you so they can execute on that really quickly. If your presentation is good, at least 50% of the room should give up their cards. So that's the pro. The con to doing it this way is, of course, there's a little bit of that manual element to it. So you have to take the actual cards and you've got to find a way to get them into your email platform. But a good VA should be able to make quick work of that and get them on your list. Another way during a live presentation in person is to use a text to join service. And that's where, you pull out your phone, people put, type a word, send the word adventure to, 33453, whatever the number is. They'll get a reply, they'll enter their information, and they're automatically on your list. So the pro to doing it that way is that it's automated and all people have to do is take one little bit of action. You can get them to do it right then in the moment when they're interested and engaged with you. And so a higher percentage of the room should do it. The con is that sometimes people won't take the second step. Those work with, they get sent something, they have to send their email address back. Sometimes people don't do it. But the bigger con is if you're in like a room where there's not a good connection and people can't send the text, then that could prevent them from taking action. And also, I think it's always risky when you have someone pull out their phone in a presentation because, everyone gets so easily distracted nowadays. They might start checking email or answer other texts and you kind of lose them. But if you're a good speaker, you ought to be able to pull them right back. Now, if you're speaking virtually, you want to offer a free gift where people need to enter their name and email address in order to get the gift. You want to make sure that the host posts the link in a high traffic place so that a lot of people will be able to get to it easily and they'll be able to enter their information and proceed with your process. So the pro on that side is that it's automated. They enter their name and email, they're on the list, they get the stuff, they're done. You don't even have to think about it again. The con, and this, by the way, also will help you. Another pro to this is that it will help you identify who has an audience that's a match with you. If their audience responds really well, you might want to do a joint venture with that person. I'll talk about that strategy in a minute. Now, the con to doing it this way is you are relying on the host of the event to drive the traffic to the right place and to help you build and to bring the audience so that that they have the audience they say that they do. So what's great about generating leads through speaking engagement is that you already are starting to build that know, like, and trust factor. And people buy from those that they know, like, and trust. And so when they see you in person or they see you on a virtual interview, they already are starting to understand what you're about. They're starting to develop that relationship with you, and it's increasing the idea that they might end up becoming a client. It's kind of like warm leads, so to speak. All right, the second tactic is Facebook ads and SEO and Google ads, and I kind of put all these into one category, and that's just because I feel like they follow a similar thread, right? If you're really clear about who your ideal client is, and if you're not really clear, you should take the time to get really clear, then these ads and SEO is a great way to drive traffic to a lead magnet. Now, let me say that again. You need to be really clear about who your ideal client is, because if you don't and you use these strategies, the Facebook ads and the Google ads and all that, you might end up driving the wrong traffic or just wasting a lot of time, money, and energy. Now, all of the idea in this category is that you want to get in front of your ideal client and offer them something that's going to get them to give up their email. Really, it's really bottom line of it. Let's talk about Facebook ads, because they're really popular. Now, what's cool is when you go into that ad manager, there's all kinds of criteria you can pick for your ideal client, and everything from geography to age to special interests. In fact, what's cool about Facebook ads in particular is if you know, for example, that your ideal client loves Oprah, then you can actually target people who like Oprah, and you can get an ad right in front of them. So it's great for really narrowing that down and getting in front of the right people. So the pro is you can get really specific about who you're in front of. And once you figured out that right combination of words and image and call to action and all that, then once you know you've got one that works and that generates results, then you can just add fuel to the fire and keep building that. The con is that it can take a little bit of time to figure out that right combination. Sometimes it's as simple as changing a couple of words or changing the image, and it'll make a big impact on whether people respond and whether you get your results. And figuring that out is definitely a learning curve, and you can spend a lot of time, money, and energy figuring that part out. Another con with this particular strategy is that I've found that the people who you draw in are a little colder. They're not quite as warm, meaning it might take a little bit more nurturing and a little bit more relationship building before they'll actually turn into clients. So just keep that in mind when you use this strategy, is that you'll want to spend a little bit more time engaging with them before making some sort of offering with them. It's kind of like a blind date, if you want to think about it in relationship terms. All right, so the third tactic is joint ventures. Now, joint ventures are a great way to build your email list and to expand your audience. If you're not familiar with what this is, joint venture basically means you partner up with someone who has the same audience as you, and you offer them a lead magnet, a webinar, an interview, or something that will draw them over to your audience or to your list. And the great thing is that you then reciprocate and do the same for that person to your list. So it's a nice mutually beneficial relationship. And the cool thing is when you get in front of someone who has the right audience, it's you're providing value to their people, and then they're helping you provide value to your people. So it's very symbiotic, I think is the right word. It works really well. How about that? So the best partnerships for this particular tactic are one where you're in front of the same audience, but you offer a different service. So one way I like to think about this by way of example is a wedding planner with a wedding photographer. So they are both working with the same target audience, and a same ideal client, but they're offering different services, so they're not going to step on each other's toes. The services are very complementary. The con is that you're relying on the other person to kind of hold up their end of the bargain and have the audience that they say that they do. So you want to, that's just something you just need to work through and figure out. There's a little trial and error involved in that as well. All right, so the fourth tactic is virtual summits. These are also known as telesummits, and they are the most powerful of the four. Now, if you don't know what a virtual summit is or a telesummit, they can be audio, they can be video, and I like to think of them just as an interview series. It's where the host is interviewing 20 experts in a field, and then those speakers, those experts are promoting to their audience and to their email list, and they're driving traffic back to the host site. and that is where the host grows his or her email list. Now, I have to tell you, I'm totally biased. This is absolutely my favorite strategy of the 4, and that's because it works. It works really well. I produce virtual events full time, and I've had clients add 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, even 20,000 email subscribers to their list, and they're all potential clients, and in a very short time. And I've had them make money in the process. So I just know this combo works really well. The key here, though, is you must take the time to set up the event properly. That means understanding, again, who your ideal client is, and that understanding not only helps you with how to position the event, but it also helps you to pick the right speakers. Now, one note about who the best speakers are, it's not just subject matter experts, it's people who have an audience with the audience you want to get in front of. And so they're bringing not only content, but also an audience. I could go on and on and on about picking the right speakers, and I won't bother you with that today because it's not really what our talk is about today. But I just want to put it out there to you that it's a really powerful strategy. So the pro of using this strategy is that you can build your list really fast with your ideal client. Plus, you're kind of building the relationship as the event is unfolding. So it really creates a warm relationship with your prospective client. They're listening to you, they're hearing you for, 10 days or however long you run the event, and they're seeing you and they're really getting a feel for who you are and what you're about. So they're way more likely to turn into a client after the event than someone who maybe comes through some of the other methods. I have one of my clients uses this strategy every year to fill her private coaching practice. And I have another client who uses the strategy also every year to fill a group coaching practice. So it can be very powerful in and of itself, and then it can be very powerful with how it helps you expand your business. The con to doing this strategy is it's just that there's a lot of moving parts. This is a strategy that if you don't know what you're doing, you can waste a ton of time, money, and energy. And, I know this from personal experience. My very first summit that I hosted, I thought I was going to add 5,000 subscribers to my list and make all this money. And then I added like 350 people to my list, and I made like maybe $300. And I was totally annoyed and frustrated. But I took the time to learn how the platform works and really to study it, and then I figured it out. And so the cool thing is, since that first experience, I've produced almost 70 virtual summits, and I've helped my clients add hundreds of thousands of subscribers to their email list and make hundreds of thousands of dollars in the process. So I figured it out. Now, notice that for all 4 of those tactics, really key is to have a great grasp on who your ideal client is, and that is really true for all aspects of your business if you think about it. Another key is to make sure you have a compelling reason for people to join your list. You can't just say, hey, get on my list. So you'll notice that with speaking and joint ventures and with the ad section, it's all using a lead magnet. A lead magnet is just a really fancy way of saying something to give people to get on your list. So what I did with the list building strategies is a lead magnet. With virtual summits, the summit itself is the lead magnet, so to speak. Now, I promised I would share with you the 2 ways that people build their lists that actually don't work. Now, this is going to surprise you, I think, the first one. The very first one are podcasts. Now, people are using podcasts all the time, and podcasts are a great tool, but they're a great nurture tool, not a great list building tool. The deal is, unless you can get like #1 rated on iTunes and, at the top of, I don't even know what they call it, but if you can be one of those really super high profile ones, then you might grow your subscriber list like that. But generally, podcasts aren't list growth opportunities, but they are great tactics if you already have an audience. So if you have someone, you have a group, if you have an email list that you want to provide regular content to, it's a great way to nurture and build the relationship. Now, Tim Ferriss does an excellent job with this. He actually has the most downloaded podcast ever, and he's known as the Oprah of audio. But he still says, even with the most downloaded podcast ever, that growing his email list is one of his top priorities. So if Tim needs to do it, I think we all do. Now, the other one is the webinar. Now, a lot of people use webinars. Webinars are fantastic, but they're, again, a great delivery mechanism. They're a great content delivery. They can build your list if you use them in tandem with like a joint venture. So what I talked about earlier, if you offer a webinar to someone else, to someone else's list, it can be a way to grow your list. But generally, webinars are a way to nurture your list, nurture your audience, and provide great content to them. So they generally aren't what's going to be used to build your list in a big way. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. And before you go, I have one more treat for you. If you've been thinking about hosting a virtual event or a telesummit, or if maybe now you're inspired to host one, then I want to give you access to my Quick Start Bundle. You can find out all the information below, but this package has everything you need to start planning your virtual event. First, it has the 3 simple tips for picking the best speakers. Now, picking the right speakers can make or break your event. And I want you to, you can also use this information for how to pick a good JV partner. So it kind of floats both ways. Second component is called Key Summit Components. And this is just kind of the overview to give you an idea of the tech platforms you need and the copy you're going to have to write and kind of the 10,000-foot view of what you need to put together to have a successful summit. Then there's my Ultimate Summit Checklist. That just literally is a checklist to walk you through each and everything that you need for the summit. Now, I created this and the production schedule, which is the fourth piece. I created both of those after producing almost 70 telesummits. So I spent a lot of time and money and energy putting these 2 things together and figuring out exactly what we need to do in order to have a great event. And I created that production schedule for my clients originally to give them a way to map out exactly what should happen when, so we could stay on track to make sure that we were producing a fantastic event. So there's also an instructional video that'll tell you how to utilize each 4 of those pieces so you can get the best value out of it. Now, the entire package is just $17. It's ridiculously cheap. And I tell you, I promise you, I spent more than 17 hours, I think, putting all of that together, way more, because it's kind of the culmination of the things that I've learned after producing almost 70 summits. So click the Get It Now button below to pick up the bundle for just $17, and that's it. I hope you have an awesome day, and I thank you so much for checking in, and I hope you've learned a lot from our session today. Thanks.